About 7 or 8 years ago, 10X was formed by 4 individuals in Australia. And with that came this extraordinary package of intellectual property. And you'll see on the screen, there are just a couple of icons on what that intellectual property is. Now, of course, $4 million worth of IP is very difficult to show onto one screen. It is extraordinary, very rich and very deep content that was built by 10X in the early days, and of course has been updated and progressed since then. At the same time of building the IP, the methodology that 10X designed at the time was to package up business coaching together with the intellectual property and sell it off to 66 accounting firms across ANZ. And the average fee for the sale was around $250,000 or thereabouts. So what happened next? Well, the business couldn't sustain itself simply because the methodology was flawed. And we went in and bought the business and put it into administration for some time until we could figure out a methodology that really, really works. And so that's a nice segue into how does 10X work. So what we know about the 10X model is that it's very focused on working with small to medium enterprises, and with that comes accounting practices. So why particularly an accounting practice? Well, quite simply, it's because the accountant is the last trusted advisor essentially for SMEs. So we said, well, there's got to be a way to make this work. So prior to even building that methodology, we canvassed and surveyed well over 100 accounting practices. And I guess when you see the outcome of this, it's probably not going to surprise you that much. But nevertheless, what they said was, we want to grow our practice. There's no question about that. We just simply don't know how. So we're looking for better quality leads. We want a point of difference because we understand that compliance in itself is simply not going to cut the mustard moving forward with all the disruption in the professional services arena. We're looking for good, very strong reciprocal referral relationships that are tracked and managed so that we know what business we're referring and what business we're getting. Clearly, there's a lack of sales and marketing skills, generally speaking, across accounting practices. And this is what the feedback was from them. Most of the practitioners really do not like getting out there to promote themselves or their practices. So they know what they want, and that's to grow, but they're really not sure how to do it. And then again, the sole practitioners and the 2 partner firms essentially felt like they were on their own, and they looked to be part of something bigger, like a group, a tribe, or a mastermind of some sort with like-minded professionals. So clearly there is a need. We know that, we've established that, the accounting practices have told us. So what is the solution? Well, we're very clear, again, that they want to grow their firms, their practices. So we said, okay, so how do we create alliances that can support these accounting practices? Because we don't want to practice manage, that's not our forte, but we do want to grow their businesses. So how do we do that? So we constructed a model called the 10X Hub. Now, in itself, the Hub methodology is not unique, but spare me a moment. So what we've done is at the center of the accounting, of this Hub, we have the accounting practice. And around the practice, we are building and have built professional services that can add value to the accounting practice, but who can also add value to each other. And in the middle of that hub, together with the accounting practice, is the coach. So the coach works very closely with the practitioner to build this hub, because there has to be chemistry. There has to be a reciprocal nature in terms of giving and sharing knowledge, referrals, support, etc. So it clearly becomes an advisory board. And the beauty about this advisory board is that really in this instance to have other practitioners around this advisory board, because all they're going to do is help each other with what they already know. So that's why we formed a hub with diverse professional services around. And those are just the classic ones that we have approached in the past and what's working really well. So we've added others to it, depending on what that practice is looking for particularly. So this gives us a real opportunity to focus on growing their profits. And you'll see there's an asterisk in the box that says we have access to government financing to help these guys grow their practices. And I'll talk about that in a minute. So the real issues are identified. We set real action plans, and we have very strong accountability between the group, but more importantly, supported by the coach. So that's the hub model we formed some time back, and we've got a number of these running at the moment. And we're also at the moment building, we've got 5 in the process of being constructed. So we've also formed an alliance. So 10X has formed a partnership with a company called Accountancy Corp. Now, Accountancy Corp is a business that aggregates accounting practices. So they create a funding process for succession for sole practitioners or 2 or 3 partner firms. So a practitioner who wishes to exit the business but simply can't afford it, Accountancy Corp creates the funding to allow that accountant to exit and for a new accountant to come in and pick up the business. So the funding mechanism is assisting succession planning amongst practitioners who simply can't retire. So what does that mean for us? It's very exciting what it means for us. So for every one of these practitioners that are aggregated under Accountancy Corp banner is a hub, a 10X hub is formed around every single one of these practices. So if you look at Accountancy Corp's strategy of 20 to 30 practices over the next 12 months, you can see the need for very experienced coaches supporting these accounting firms is really, really important. So if we look at, let's just go back to the previous slide. So we've talked about how we form the hub around the accounting. Oh, and incidentally, we've got a hub being formed at the moment around a financial planning firm. So it doesn't have to only be an accounting practice. It can also be other professional services, but typically it's the accounting firm that works best simply because, like I said earlier, they are the trusted advisor essentially for SMEs. So once we've formed the hub, what's the next step? Well, the next step is to build coaching clubs for the clients of the people around in that hub. So each one of those members of that hub has their own client base. So those clients, together with our database, and we have probably the largest private database of SMEs across Australia, we have in excess of 200,000 SMEs that we talk to fairly regularly on off our database. So we invite the clients of the hub members as well as our clients to an event that we call an Edge event. And it's at this event that we deliver 3 hours of absolute content. So it's not a sales fest, it's simple content that we deliver. And it's really the feedback that we get from this is 9 out of 10, 8 out of 10. It's extraordinary. They go away with a workbook full of great new ideas after 3 hours. So they feel pretty energized for the most part. And of course, it's hosted by the coach of that particular hub. So the 10X coach who's working together with that accounting practice is the host together with myself at these Edge events. So from that Edge event, we have one-on-ones with the attendees of the Edge event. They complete a diagnostic tool called a 10X Business Health Questionnaire, and that gives us a very clear indication of where their business is at. And of course, it gives us a great opportunity to go into our one-on-one meeting knowing exactly what that business requires. And with that comes what we call a discovery consultation, and that's the one-on-one. And the coach conducts that with the attendee after we've already done a needs analysis. So we've got a pretty clear idea, again, of what that SME's needs are. The R at the top of that little icon is our app, our private app that is a CRM system for referrals. So we use Referon to refer any needs that these SMEs have back to the hub. So we're constantly feeding referrals back to the hub, which keeps them happy, of course, and it keeps the coach happy. So the next step from there, when the SME decides to join 10X, we do a very in-depth analysis on their business together with them. And that usually takes 3-4 hours, and possibly, depending on the size of the business, could even take up to half a day. Once they've committed to joining 10X and we've done the in-depth, what do they get? So clearly, the 10X IP is of great value to the SME because they have full access to it on all hundreds of strategies that we have on how they can improve their business, right from elements of cash flow, business planning, cost savings, through to something really as simple on the other extreme as how to design an effective business card and anything in between that. So there's an extraordinary amount of intellectual property that the SME has access to. Secondly is we have a mastermind group that we call a coaching club that we run every 2 months. So it's bi-monthly, every 2 months, and it's a full day. So what does this coaching club look like? Let's have a quick look. So clearly it's a group coaching. So we're leveraging time, and that's critical because we know that there are limitations to how many clients you can see in a day, in a week, in a month. And of course, there's a ceiling to how much you can charge for the most part. It's not uncapped. So clearly time is an issue. So we've said, well, let's leverage time. Again, not a brand new concept, but the rigid, it's a very structured day that we have for this coaching club. And remember, it's every 2 months. So bi-monthly, 60 days between 2 groups. And in fact, I'm hosting the very next one here in Sydney on Friday, and it's their 5th meeting now, so very exciting. And the group's growing in leaps and bounds. So the typical structure of the coaching club day is what you see on the screen. So of importance there is the 9:30 to 10:30 slot is where we review their plans from the previous 60 days. Very important because they've already shared that with the group from the previous meeting 60 days prior. So now they have an action plan of 2, 3, or 4 items that they go away to implement in their business, and they come back 60 days later to report back on what they've achieved or what the challenges were. Very powerful because none of them like coming back to the meeting not having achieved or even attempted what the action plan was that they set 60 days prior. So the next step is what we do is what we call the learning component. So we spend an extraordinary amount of time actually downloading learning insights. Again, I'll elaborate on that in a minute, but it's important to know that these learning insights are not academic. It's about their business. So whatever content we deliver is directly related to their business, directly. Then at 3:30, we run what we call a hot seat. And the hot seat is fantastic because it gives 1 or 2 members of the group the opportunity to present a burning issue in their business or a burning concern or a challenge that they're facing. And it's incredible how many times the challenge that they put on the board is in fact not really the issue. So we, as a group, we peel back the onion, so to speak, until we actually get to the real issue. And it's really interesting. Almost every time that we host a hot seat, I can honestly say that almost every time the issue that's written on the whiteboard is not really what the issue turns out to be. It's fabulous to see the look on their faces when they get off the hot seat. And not only have we identified the real issues, but the group has worked together with them to find solutions, different options on how to solve that problem. So it's fantastic. Then the last part of the day is we set the next 60 days action plan, which is of course what gets reviewed in 60 days time. So that's the full day of coaching club that we have. So 10X IP access every 60 days of coaching club. And then in between the coaching club, we have one-on-one coaching. So there are 12 touch points in a year. So every 60 days is a group meeting and every 60 days is a one-on-one meeting between the coach and the client, obviously. So here's where it gets very sexy, and here's where it gets very different to what anyone else is offering. So what we've done is we've taken our 10x IP, and the IP, like I said, is extraordinary. It's very, very rich. And there's a component of the IP that is for coaches only. So it's a resource library, a repository, so to speak, of content that the coach uses. It's extraordinary. So what we've done is we've mapped that IP to a diploma in business. So we've taken our IP, mapped it to a DipBiz, remembering that we're an RTO, so we can do that. So what does that mean? It means it's bespoke. It's particular to our product. So whilst we're coaching our clients, they have, if they so choose, they have the opportunity to qualify in a diploma of business. But here's the extraordinary part, is that outside that one-day coaching club completing those workbooks, that is the credit towards the diploma in business. As long as the workbook's completed with their business, that qualifies them for that unit of competency. Very exciting. So even more exciting than that is if you look at the bottom of how see Vet Fee Help. So that's the opportunity. Vet Fee Help is similar to HECS for university qualifications. Vet Fee Help is for diplomas. So it's vocational educational training, and it's the financial assistance to complete the diploma in business. So really, essentially, folks, this is not about the diploma in business. And I need to highlight that, because most SMEs really couldn't be bothered about a diploma in business. But what it does do is it gives them the opportunity to be coached for a year without having to outlay any cash. So we know, for the most part, two objections we get. One is time, and two, of course, is money. So I can't afford it, or my cash flow is not allowing me to I'd love to go through the coaching program, but I just simply can't afford it. Well, we've now dealt with that objection immediately, because we can now coach our clients, improve their cash flows, and at the same time, they're not paying anything directly because it's being financed by the government. So it's a fantastic USP that we have. So let me give you a little insight quickly on how that looks. So just to illustrate it a bit. So let's take one insight or leadership, and I've chosen the leadership module for that, for the purpose of this example. So within eCampus, which is what the coaches have direct access to, is Coach Academy. And you'll see there are 4 icons below there. One is Video Theatre, and the other one is Exam Room. The other two I will just ignore for the moment. So let's take Video Theatre. So remembering, this is the content that you deliver as the coach to the group in that one-day coaching club. So the video is on leadership. Now, the video is broken up into segments of 5 to 6 minutes, sometimes a wee bit more, sometimes a bit less. The reason for that is, after the 5-minute concept that we've talked about, they create an action plan and or relate it immediately back to their business in a workbook that looks like that. So the workbook forms the evidence for the unit of competency for the diploma in business, but more importantly, it's their action plan. And at the back of that workbook is a project tracker. So whilst we're coaching them on content, we're actually not, it's really not about the content. It's about how do you apply this very cool concept and overall content to your business. And at the same time, the outcome at the end of the 12 months is the diploma in business. So it's exciting. And then there's the opportunity, just I touch on it briefly, in the exam room. That's for the coach to assess herself or himself on that particular insight. Now, we have some coaches who choose to deliver the content themselves. I recommend we use the videos because they are extraordinarily well presented and very rich in content. So it saves you preparation time, probably days of preparation time. So that's how we deliver the unit of competency and the coaching or learning insight, we call it, in the coaching club. So I just wanted to raise something we can run, and in fact we're actually running some verticals at the moment. So one of them is Jets Fitness. They have 250 franchise gyms across the country. So we're running a program where we have 8 to 10 business owners in one group, supported by their 10X coach. And we also are working with some other verticals. Kaya Power is a franchise business, and NDS is a government-funded organization. So yes, there are some verticals that we're working with, and there are a number of others which we're in negotiations with as we speak. So how have we differentiated ourselves? Well, clearly the SME's business performance is of paramount, and we might say, well, that's obvious. Well, not necessarily, because the coaching business in itself per se doesn't have a great reputation for helping businesses improve their performance. So we're absolutely focused on improving performance. So everything that takes place in the coaching club is about business performance. The IP is about helping you improve your business, whether it's cost saving or revenue driving or both. It's about driving your business. The tools are there, the methodology is there, the accountability is there, and that's a big focus for us. Number two is, I've just talked about our insights being mapped to a diploma in business with the ability to finance that through VetFee Help. That's very unique to us. And the last one, which is very appropriate for this session, is we're only looking for accomplished coaches. That's very important to us. And the people that I have selected, the coaches, come from very wide backgrounds, but are passionate about coaching. And it's really working well for us. So what is the investment that our clients pay to become a part of the 10X program? So they have full access to our IP. There's 6 times a year we have a group meeting called the Hub Coaching Club, and the deep dive that we do is $2,500, and then a monthly fee of $1,250. So that's the investment the client makes to 10X. So what's in it for you? Now that we've understood the methodology of 10X, what's the value proposition for you? Why should you become a part of 10X? Well, let's have a look. I talked about the Hub. So what we do, align you with an accounting practice so that you can start working with that practitioner almost immediately. And you would work with the practitioner and us to build the hub around the practitioner. So we have a number of channels which we pursue to build those to identify those professional services around the accounting practice. So yes, so we identify the accountant, we identify the professional services, and we work very closely with you in setting that up. Secondly, we through that, we identify if he or she prefers to do them, that's fine. But we set that up, we create the opportunities, and we book the venues, set the venues, etc., etc. We also have the tools, and again, that's the IP. And I've just highlighted the business health check questionnaire. So we have all the tools in our repository to work with the coach, or for the coach to use in their coaching practice. Fifth is, excuse me, we create, beg your pardon. Fifth is we have very intense training on how to sell, because what I've found in my experience is that many coaches are brilliant at coaching, but they really can't close the sale or generate the lead, or they struggle to generate the lead and they struggle to close the sale for whatever reason. It is what it is. So we spend 2 days right at the beginning training our coaches on how to use our tools and their tools if they want to add those in. It's not exclusive to 10X. and then how to use those tools really to conduct the discovery consultation, the one-on-one, and to close the sale. So the coach has access to the IP just like the SMEs do. And of course, we have a quarterly coaches club with me, the CEO. So I host a quarterly meeting here in Sydney. It's a full day, and it's not just a meeting, it's actually a training component, as well as a learning component, as well as dealing with the current topics that each coach may have. So it's a quarterly super club meeting that we have, and usually they're here in Sydney, in our offices in Martin Place. And then, of course, we support the coach through the 10X HQ. We have, so number 9 is just a representation of, you become part of a tribe, you become part of 10X, you become part of actually essentially BSI Learning. So you're not out there operating on your own, you're actually supported. You've got a team around you, you've got 10X HQ, you've got BSI Learning. So you've got all the support tools just in both resources, through marketing, through sales tools, professional business tools, as well as the people resources supporting you. And then, of course, similar to the SME, you also have access directly to VetFee Help and the DipBiz. So you, if you choose, we would go through the Diploma in Business course with you. But again, that would be the workbook on